So delighted to be joined on the podcast by John Hayes to discuss this weekend's Cork Premier Senior Football Championship final between Castlehaven and Nemo Rangers. I suppose first of all, John, most people would say that this is a close game to call, but look at Castlehaven's form at the moment. It is a good sign for the West Cork side going into this final.
Yeah. Look, I think if you're going on form lines, then Castlehaven are very much the team to beat in it. They're reigning champions, so they won this contest last year. Wasn't a particularly great game, but they got the job done, and were, I wouldn't say comfortable, but they won it reasonably clearly in the end, I think. And this year, I think they seem to have gone up another level. I suppose maybe last year for the semi final with the Bars, we saw the first signs of kind of the evolution for Castlehaven in the sense that they kind of just went away from just the 15v15 kind of approach against St. Finbars, and they pulled Mark Collins into the play sweeping role at the back, where he also kind of works as a playmaker for them, and obviously then wing forwards and wing backs tuck in as well to kind of make it very tight and leave the Jack Callahan and the two Hurleys up top. So like since they've started to do that, they've looked a very very difficult team to beat. So I think they've from the form we've seen so far, they seem to have made more improvement than Nemo in the last 12 months. So, in considering they won that game last year, I think it's reasonable enough to make Castlehaven clear favourites. As I suppose what would kind of give you a pause to think about it a little bit more is just it's Nemo Rangers, and Nemo's record in finals is phenomenal. Even though they were beaten last year, it's still phenomenal. So they are the top club side in Cork by a distance. And this particular team hasn't got the same adulation, and I think whatever Luke Conley said it, that they don't get the respect they feel they deserve. And it's hard to argue when I think they've won 5 of the last 9 counties or something like that. That they haven't. That it's hard to argue that they have got the respect that they deserve. But nonetheless, we have to take the game on its merits. And taking the game on its merits at the moment, Castlehaven are the favourite team. And look, I think it's looking good for them, set up well, but Nemo won't roll over for them.
Is there an argument though that Castlehaven had an easier run to the final than Nemo? Because even looking at some of Castlehaven's results, they beat Michaels by 218 to 5 points, beat Clonakilty the first day out by 6 points, whereas Clonakilty pushed Nemo all the way to extra time and then subsequently penalties. Is there an argument that Nemo have had a harder run to the final than the Haven?
Um, I think they're quite similar, I suppose. Like you just made a point there, they both played off against Clan, and Castlehaven were more comfortable again. So that kind of backs up what we were saying all along. To be fair to Nemo, they probably were in charge in that game until the black card for Alan O'Donovan, and even during that black card period, they managed it quite well for the most part until Clan got 2 goals in about a minute or less than 2 minutes anyway, and that kind of changed the game on its head. Even after that, they pulled it back, 2 points down, 10 minutes to go. They brought it back and were ahead in injury time before Brian White kicked the equaliser. Obviously, same thing in extra time before Nemo prevailed on penalties. So that kind of game kind of took a life of its own after the black card and 2 goals. That really kind of picked Clan up, like, and they had a good crowd behind them and band and everything else like that. So they fought hard for that. And again, it was knockout football as opposed to the earlier stages with when it was Clan when Clan were taking on the Haven. So I wouldn't say, look, they've earned these, or they earned the buy into the semi final, and then they got the Bars in the semi finals. So I don't think it's been a case of it being an easier run. I think they've just been a little bit more impressive. That's all.
And you look at Brian Hurley's form at the moment, like even look at top scorers charts, he wasn't even in the top 10 going into the semi final. Then against the Bars, he scores 11 points and goes up to third. Like the form he's in at the moment, is it possible that Nemo stop him during the final? And then Nemo will definitely have to put their best man marker, whether that be Kevin O'Donovan or not, on Brian Hurley.
Yeah, and I think it's even more important who the sweeper is. Like I felt, I kind of said it before the Bears game. I felt the Bears. I can understand. Alan O'Connor was the best defender the Bears had last day, so they put him on Castlehaven's best forward. I would have put someone else on him just to slow him down and have Alan O'Connor be the second guy to come in to block him. Because I don't think in a 1v1 situation in an open field like you had the last day in Parky Keeve, I don't think if on Parky Keeve pitch with Brian Hurley in the form like that, there's no one stopping him 1-on-1. So I don't really care who you are. There's virtually no one in the country. Only a couple of people could even kind of live with him. So I think the first guy's job is to slow him down, and then you want the second guy in to be really, really strong and powerful defender. So, like, I think it was 2013, when he destroyed Nemo in that county final, 12 points he kicked. And, I met a few Nemo people, like, we were up in the stand looking at going, how are they leaving this one-on-one still all through that game? This is just, it's almost negligent kind of stuff, really. And it's crazy stuff. But I met a few Nemo people in the aftermath of that game, and I said, how was nothing done to stop Brian Hurley? How could you not double up in that situation? It's like, what I was told was it's not the Nemo way, So I think everything has changed since then. You see with Nemo the last couple of years, they're a lot more pragmatic. And it's the way football has gone, for better or for worse. And every team has been doing it to an extent. In fairness to them, they do try and keep the three lads up as much as possible and play some good football on the break. But they are being defensively sound first and foremost. And Nemo were quite similar in last year's final. I remember being up in the stand and Luke Connolly was around the halfway line, back defending. So I think Nemo have gone beyond that now. And is it going to be one sweeper? I would expect a minimum of one sweeper in front of him. I'm not sure you don't need two, but you don't need one kind of guarding either side. Castlehaven will drop numbers off. There's certain players, whether it's wing backs or something like that for Castlehaven, you don't need to worry about them coming forward and kicking 2 or 3 points. They have plenty of fellas who can do that, but there's other players that you maybe can just say we're going to just let him be the free man and cover off the space in front of the two hurleys, because it's not just Brian either, because Brian gets a lot of attention. Michael probably wasn't really fit the last Sunday week. Probably wasn't as fit as hadn't played in a couple of games previously, but that game will bring him on a bit. So if you just go, okay, we're going to put one sweeper in front of Brian Hurley, Brian will still do his thing, but Michael Hurley and Jack Allan and the Maguires and Mark Collins and Damien from deep, if they're fit, they'll do damage as well. So I think it's about defensive structure and defensive solidity for Nemo to stop. Not just Brian, but everything that they have. So yeah, like I think we're gone a long way from where Nemo said they wouldn't have a sweeper or someone to double up with them. I think they're going to absolutely need that, at least one, and perhaps maybe even a second one. But yeah, like they do have strong defenders, the defensive zone, but their full back line is quite young. Owen Nation, Colin Loy, two very good young players. But it's a big occasion for those guys as well. So I think they're going to have to protect that line.
Is there an argument that Nemo are probably the best match for of a Brian Hurley or the lethal forwards that Castlehaven had? Because 2 years ago, Stephen Sherlock was in the forward side for St. Finbarrs and going into the county final, and Nemo shackled them very, very well in that particular game. So is there an element that Nemo are probably a best match in terms of that?
Yeah, like I think to be fair to the Bears, they were down probably 4 starting, 3 at least, but maybe 4 starting defenders. If Sam Ryan is there, maybe Sam Ryan tags Brian, and Alan O'Connor comes in as the sweeper in that situation. Jamie Burns was kind of trying to do it, but you could tell they're not really used to that kind of system. The Bears have always gone 15 on 15, toe to toe, man on man, and that's the way they were comfortable. That's the way they've done it. But for Nemo a couple of years ago, that game against the Bears when the Bears were favourites and the Bears were going really well, I think they got their platform out around the middle of the field. Like Alan O'Donovan and Barry Cripps were incredibly strong that day, and I think they stopped the supply and they just controlled the ball and controlled the game. Paul Kerrigan, Luke Connolly, and we haven't touched on it. Luke isn't there for Nemo anymore. That's another reason. he mightn't have been at his blind best last year because of injury, but he's still a huge loss and a huge concern for an opposition as well. So um, I think like the Bars at full strength would still, give Castlehaven a right good game. But at the moment, it just looks like Castlehaven have improved by 3, 4, 5 points. I'm not sure we can quite say the same about Nemo from last year. So, look, again, I've got this wrong before. I was tipping up the Bars that time 2 years ago, even though in the back of the head it was like the Nemo's record in the final and the fact that the Bars had never beaten them in the final, and maybe that played in their heads. Castlehaven don't have the same hang up. You know, they beaten them just last year. So I think the confidence and the belief is there with Castlehaven. Not writing off Nemo completely, of course, on that, but they have improvement to do. They have a lot of improvement to do based on what we've seen so far to come up to the level to beat Castlehaven.
You talked about Castlehaven's improvement there, and even from last season, they had a good run in the Munster Championship and the All Ireland series. But even against St Bridget's in the semi final, they had like a 41 or 42% shot accuracy. Against the Bars in the semi final, it was 69%. What do you think that improvement comes down to? Like Shawnee Callahan's obviously in this year, was James McCarthy last year. What do you think that's down to, John? Is it just they're much better shooting, or are they learning from experiences? What do you think it is?
I think sometimes it comes down to a little bit of just the confidence. Like um, Brian Hurley started the last day and he kicked 2 or 3 off his left foot and it was straight over the bar. And it was just like when he got the ball, he's not missing. Like a different game, they mightn't go over, and if you miss one or two, you start to snatch it. And as well as Brian doing that, but great belief through the rest of the side then as well. And they were coming forward with confidence. I saw Sean Brown get forward and kick a good score. Andrew Welton come forward and kick a good score. Both fellas off their left foot, which I think are their weaker feet. So I think when you start like that, and your main man is on song up the top, it just breeds confidence through the team. And they were looking like a team who just had incredible belief. It's not like they're going to have changed all that much as players in what 6, 7 or 8 months or whatever since that All Ireland semi final. And Brian's been playing for how many years, so it's not like he's going to have done anything in the meantime that was vastly different to what he had done before. It's just getting the ball, getting early, getting scores on the board, having that confidence run through the team, and then playing on that basis. And they were happy then as well. Once they built their lead, they were happy to just kind of drop back a little bit, and wait for the space to open up on the break. And they did it brilliantly, to be fair. So I think we've kind of seen a clear change with the Castlehaven game plan in the last 18 months or so, and they're doing it very well. Like Matt Collins has adapted to his role. He's happy to sit. He goes forward when the chance comes, but he's doing kind of some of the dirty work back in defence, whereas previously he was an attacking midfielder, or even a centre forward, or playing in the forwards as well. And the guys on the break, then Jack Allan was eating up the space. Cathal Maguire was eating up the space. Rory Maguire didn't do a whole pile in the semi final, but he's shown it plenty of times what he can do as well. So they just look a really good outfit at the moment. And again, I know the Nemo boys are going. If any of them are looking at this, they're going to rub their hands and say, "This is great. This is perfect." Wait, and you never would dismiss Nemo's chances, but all the signs at the moment are pointing towards Castlehaven.
Another element that's quite interesting that I looked at in the semi final was the kickouts from both sides of the coin in Nemo and Castlehaven. Castlehaven won 5 of the Bars long kickouts in the semi final, and in the Nemo and Mallow game, Nemo were only forced to kick long with about 5 minutes to go. Mallow decided to push up and go hell for leather, more or less. And Mallow won 3 of Nemo's long kickouts out of 3. So if the Haven do push up for the entire of this game, do you think that's kind of curtains for Nemo after that?
Well, and look, I've been watching that a good bit as well with Castlehaven, and they really do 2 things. They either push fully or they drop fully. There's no halfway house. There's no in between with them. There will be a call at times to say it's a 13, 14, 15 man push. They'll push right up and force you to go along, and some of their bigger guys are on the middle. Welton, Rory Maguire, Damien McCallan if he's fit, Mark Collins. They're 4 big guys to be hitting all good in the air. They can break it, and they're sharp on the brakes as well. So they'll do both depending on the time. of the game and how things are going. Sometimes in a dead ball, they'll definitely push. And that could test Nemo because Nemo aren't the biggest team in the world. They've got Alan O'Donovan as their main target. Barry Cripps is a big enough man, but beyond that, they don't have much by the way of size out there, So that is an area I think Castlehaven will be targeting. You're absolutely right. But there's also the case that if Castlehaven get a little bit of a lead and if it's a little bit more frantic and they can't get that press up, they'll just let Nemo have the ball and drop off and let them come at them and try and hit them on the break, which they did a few times in the second half of the Bars the last this. So yeah, no, it is. We've seen that evolution with Castlehaven over the last little while as well. So there has obviously been some serious thinking done in Castlehaven over the last 2 seasons to say these are the things we need to do if we want to take up the level. First of all, to win the county last year, obviously winning Munster, but losing out in the All Ireland, and that's where their targets are going to be at. Same as Nemo, and Nemo are going to want to win this, and they expect to win Munsters and All Irelands too. It just looks like Castlehaven have a little bit more realistic ambition of doing so at the moment.
You talked about big men around the middle for Castlehaven, and two boys that were missing for most of the Bars game were the two Callan brothers and Damien and Connor. Connor especially is a huge man around the middle of the field. If the two of them are fully fit and ready to go for Sunday, do you think that's another obstacle that for the Ebo that will be definitely in their way?
100%, absolutely. They're two very important players for Castlehaven, and they kind of, I'd say they managed the loss of those guys seriously impressively against the Bars. Like I said, the Bars weren't quite full strength themselves. But defensively speaking, Sam Ryan, Billy Hennessy, John Crowley, another couple of guys that were injured. Nemo seemed to be pretty much at full strength at the moment, for the most part. So if those two lads come back, of course, it's going to be a massive boost. Connor did come on for about 15 or so minutes, went down holding his arm at one stage. That would suggest to me he's not quite right. That's a tricky one for them to manage. So if he's feeling that in the semi-final, a broken bone in the arm, those things, they're either right or they're not. Strapping and everything else can only do so much. I'm not quite sure what Damien's issue was, but the fact that he only managed to get literally 5 minutes and it was kind of go in there and full back and make sure Brian Hayes doesn't get a goal. So you'd have to imagine he's under pressure to be fully fit for Sunday. But at the same time, they both played a part in the semi-finals, so maybe the 2 weeks will bring them on another bit, and that they'll be ready to give a bit more again. And yeah, look, it'll do nothing but make them stronger. So they've got two Hurleys, Mark Collins, the Maguires, and the Cahillans. And as I said it already, I think those guys are all at or near inter-county football standard. So what's that, 8 or 9 guys in one team of an inter-county standard? I know Nemo are going to have their guys who aren't far off it, but they also have another few guys like Tomas Romani, who's Bay Cork under 20 and these kind of things. So yeah, look, if they're back and able to play a bigger part, it's nothing but a boost for Castlehaven. But it was very impressive how they managed without them in the semi-final, and how the players who came in and maybe the unsung heroes that they have kind of knew their jobs and knew their roles and were able to slot in and do the job. So yeah, look, it can only make them stronger if they're fit.
You mentioned in the chat before and that Luke Conley, it was a big loss to Nemo before the start of the year. But even looking at their scores and their run to the final, Paul Kerrigan's got 118, Mark Cronin's got 117, Ross Corkery's got 8 points and has been really impressive and lively throughout their games. Brian Hayes, a former Cork miner himself, has come on and looked lively in games as well. So do Nemo still have those attackers that Castlehaven need to watch? Because I know Kerrigan is a stalwart at this stage, but you look at Cronin, Corkery and Hayes especially, they're all still young enough players. So it still won't be a cakewalk for Castlehaven.
Absolutely not, and it definitely won't be a cakewalk. And I've had that kind of discussion with people over the last while. Like I said, the Nemo boys themselves feel like they haven't got the respect, and they might be right. People will. I'm blue in the face from kind of people saying to me, "This isn't a great Nemo team. This isn't a great Nemo team." And then, I think the quick comeback is 5 counties in 9 years and 7 finals in 9 years, or something to that effect as well. So their semi-final record is unreal. So clearly they are still a very good team, even if they don't have the likes of the Colin Corkeries or James Masters or those kind of things. Like, but they do still have Paul Kerrigan, one of the best footballers in Cork with the last 20 years, playing absolutely brilliant football for Nemo. So he's going to take a lot of watching. Mark Cronin is another Cork senior, very intelligent footballer. Well capable of kicking scores. Was good in the semi final as well. So he's dangerous. And Ross and Brian are both young talents. You see Ross started last day, it didn't go so well for him. Brian comes in and gets I think he got a point I think he got a point, and they both got points against Clan, and Ross put away the penalty. So when young players that can be confident, but they've got lots of ability. And then they've got players all over the pitch who've won several county medals. It's a fairly well established Nemo team. Obviously at Flag there's a couple of young guys maybe in their full back line, but Brian Murphy beside them has experience in around the Cork senior panel. Kevin O'Donovan, Stephen Cronin, Kelly Fulignati's having a good season at centre back as well. So they are a good team. They are a very good team. There's no doubt about that. It's just that Castlehaven look that bit better at the moment. And look, we have to say it as we see it. Maybe we'll end up with egg in our face, and I'm sure the Nemo boys will love nothing better than ram it down our throats. But yeah, at the moment, all the signs point towards Castlehaven. But yeah, look, Nemo being Nemo, if nothing would surprise you if they were to pull this off.
I suppose Castlehaven have some lethal forwards of their own. Brian Hurley we talked about in depth previously, but Jack Callan for me against the Bars, like he was creating goal chances. He had two goal chances against the Bars, one brilliantly saved by Darren Newman, another one just drifting past the post as well. He's also one of the top scorers from playing the Cork Championship as well. Has his role gone up for Castlehaven this year, and how crucial is that? Because he's a speedy player, he's an intelligent player, and he's a very good player in the forwards to have as well. Cathal Maguire there, if Michael Hurley's fit. So Castlehaven have some lethal forwards of their own as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think we said already. It's not all about Brian Hurley, like as good as he is. Michael last year was phenomenal. In the semi final, maybe fitness issues are holding him back a little bit this year, but they're able to cope with that where other teams wouldn't be able to. Like if Paul Kerrigan doesn't fire for Nemo the next day, okay, Mark Cronin might be able to set up, but Mark is a kind of a 3 points a game kind of character. I think I've seen him do something like Brian the last day, keep 10 or 11 points or that kind of thing. So Jack Callan's role, 100% you're spot on, and it has been since the start of the year. Joe was at the opener against Clan down in the pitch down here in Ross, and he was outstanding that day. I think the very first ball he got just took off in behind the fence and couldn't be caught. He has absolutely upped his game several levels, I would say, this year, and he's scoring freely and everything else like that. So having him come in and take the burden off the two Hurleys a little bit, it's kind of allowed Mark Collins to go back into that deeper role because they don't need him to come forward, and he would have contributed plenty of scores for the Haven back in the day. He's still capable of getting forward to get the odd score, but they have the firepower. Cathal Maguire, you're right, as well, is having another fine season. He's had a couple of good seasons now in a row for Castlehaven. He's a good player. He's very quick as well. Sometimes plays left half back, starts at left half back, and because they have numbers back, has license to get forward and create and take scores as well. Like we touched on Rory Maguire as well doing it. So yeah, they seem to have kind of threats from a lot of different positions, whereas with other teams, sometimes you think if you can shut down a couple of guys, it'll do the business for you. With Castlehaven at the moment, the form that they're in, you can't actually just go up and focus on Brian Hurley. Like, it's obviously going to be a key thing for Castlehaven or for Nemo to say we have to restrain Brian Hurley some bit. We have to contain him. But there are other players that they're going to have to worry about as well. So look, there's a lot of thinking for Nemo to do, and I'll be straight with you. If they pull this off, and if their management team pull this off, then they'll deserve to kind of gloat and deserve to kind of turn around and tell everyone where to stick it, because it'll be one of their best counties if they do pull it off, in my book.
We've probably emphasised it already that we both probably, and you probably think that Castlehaven will get over the line in the end. But if you were to pick a margin on Sunday, what would it be, do you think?
Um, Um, I think the Haven can win this by 4 or 5 points. I think they can. I think they're in that good a form. Um, Again, a lot of it comes down to the two Callans as well. If they're fit, it kind of makes it, if they're properly fit, not just fit enough to get out in the pitch, but actually properly fit, then yeah, it makes it even more of a case for Castlehaven. If they miss out or one of them miss out, or they can only come in on the bench, might make it a little bit tighter. So look, it's kind of county final. It's kind of all in the day. If Nemo can get a good start and maybe get a few turnovers back along, dispossess Brian Hurley, dispossess Jack Callahan, those kind of things, get their counter attack going, put a few scores on the board early, then anything can happen. But um, I'd be if I was on Castlehaven, if I had money on Castlehaven from the start of the season when they were 3-1 or whatever it was, I'd be feeling good. I'd be confident about my selection. So I think they can win it by 4.
Interesting prediction there, but we'll have to see on Sunday how it all plays out. Thanks, John, for coming on to the podcast, and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thanks. Cheers, Nigel.